It's horrific what this company's done to their shareholders. I weep like a baby for them. I wouldn't touch this stock. However, if Elon Musk gave me a piece of the deal, if he took it over on the debt stack or the equity, I'd back him because of executional performance on everything he touches. The rest of this board and those employees have done a horrifically bad job. I think they should be fired. So the way I'd like to look at this, because this debate around curating content is not unique to Twitter. This is a problem for all social media platforms. And over the last decade, almost 10 years, this company's been public. And if you compare its performance, and let's talk about investors. This is the most miserable investment you could have put your dollars into in social media. It has totally lagged all its other competitors, never grew anywhere near as fast as Google or Facebook or Instagram or even TikTok that just cleaned it out almost right away in a matter of months. You have to ask yourself, the rotating suite of executives have come through this thing, and all the stock options issued over the last 9 years have created virtually no value for the shareholder. Now, the best way to look at this is you gave them a decade. Why not get the whacking stick out and just start all over again? And that's what Elon Musk is proposing. The biggest risk for shareholders here, whether you believe in the free speech issue or not, is if Musk goes away. Then they're back in the same miserable place they are now. You know, there's Dante's hell. At the very bottom of that is Twitter. This has been a horrific place to try and grow a business. It needs change. It needs the whacking stick. It needs everybody cleaned out of there. And I think, frankly, if you ask me about free speech and who should be canceled, who's not, the reason this thing is underperformed is they've tried to do this curation by canceling voices and losing millions of followers. This is an abysmal performance. Can we just talk about
the free speech? Kevin, I don't disagree that this is a company that is underperformed. I think that is clear. And whether Elon can perform better, I think, is a fair question. He, of course, doesn't say that he wants to even run it for any economic purpose. He's actually been explicit about that. The question on the free speech piece, though, is, you know, at some level, you either have to decide that you're completely laissez-faire, in which case Twitter and all these social media platforms, if they approached it that way, would be littered with pornography, would be littered with snuff films, would be littered with terrible language, would be littered with all sorts of stuff that would make it completely, you know, if you think these places are a hellscape now, think about what they would look like if there was no moderation. Just think about it.
Andrew, all of that already exists on the internet in an uncurated way, and people seem to be surviving. All of that exists. Now, you know, when you start to try and figure out who should have a voice and who shouldn't, you're stepping on the basic principles of free speech in America, and that really doesn't sit well with the majority of the population.
I believe in free speech as much as I think anybody, and believe that if you want to go online and have a perspective or a view, you can have it. The question isn't, can you put that message out there? The question is, does the distribution mechanism, the company where it's being hosted, need to distribute that to, you know, millions of people, to 10 people, or somewhere in between? That's the question. And that, I'm not sure, is actually about free speech at all.
Okay, but you have to impose these rules on every single social media platform. If you decide that you're going to allow for this, it has to be ubiquitous across the entire internet. And I think that's going to be impossible to do. The cost of free speech, the cost to society, is allowing the lunatic fringe to have a voice. And that's always been the case, back to when they were writing newspapers by hand. You got to get over that, Andrew. You have to realize that the lunatic fringe has a voice. It's
but I don't want my kids seeing pornography. I don't want my kids seeing foul language or all sorts of terrible.
Then you use the tools of the internet to stop those URL sites, as you do now in your home. You have those tools. Why can't Twitter put those tools out? Why doesn't Facebook do more tools? Why doesn't Google do the same? The point is, you can't curate the entire internet. It's not going to work. You can provide tools, and that's what Twitter should do. But back, you know, you've got to ask yourself, it's horrific what this company's done to their shareholders. I weep like a baby for them. I wouldn't touch this stock. However, if Elon Musk gave me a piece of the deal, if he took it over on the debt stack or the equity, I'd back him because of executional performance on everything he touches. The rest of this board and those employees have done a horrifically bad job. I think they should be fired.
Adam, what do you think?
I think Kevin is mixing two different topics that are both important, but have nothing to do with each other. The free speech is just a question about, do we, as people, of the universe, support any platform that has distribution to hundreds of millions of people, and the pipes and the infrastructure exist to push a message out to millions of people, which did not exist 50 years ago and does not exist on the open internet, because that's the fundamental difference. Facebook and Twitter have the responsibility to moderate those pipes. That infrastructure is what's different between opening a browser and going to a website of your choice. Let's put that aside. The reason Twitter is not where it can be, which I would argue is an opportunity for them, by the way, is because the advertiser's success as it comes to performance advertising, if you compare Amazon and Facebook and Google to Twitter, there's a gap there. This is a separate topic. And then there's the question of, can Twitter solve that problem? Can Twitter be a place where millions of businesses, small businesses to big brands, be as successful on Twitter as they are on Amazon, Google, and Facebook? If the answer is yes, this company is a $50 billion revenue company, not 5. If the answer is no, then it doesn't matter, right? That is a separate topic, and that is an opportunity for Twitter shareholders.